Urban Crag Climbing Center is a rock gym located in Dayton, Ohio, with 8,000 feet of textured and sculpted vertical terrain ranging from 28 to 56 feet. For more info, go to urbancrag.com or call 937-224-CRAG. This is Mike Perkins, Jackson Malone, and from the Dayton Daily News, Amelia Robinson. And this is Real Dayton, Real Talk, version 0.3, empty spaces.
Empty spaces, like what, buildings or something?
We have so many empty spaces. We've been trying to get an empty space.
Absolutely.
5 months. We cut up this guy in the news. 5 months ago, he was a fringe outside Occupy Dayton candidate, trying to get people to say, "Hey, save the Wright Brothers bicycle shop, the one that's left on West 3rd Street." And then 5 months later, we go to a meeting where he's got representatives from the Wright family, Dayton Preservation Society, Dayton Bicycle Club. I'm sure I'm forgetting some more. All on his side to say, please save this building, please save this building.
The one that wants to turn it into the ice cream shop, the older ice cream shop and everything? Yes, I have heard that story.
The ice cream shop is on a hit list right now.
Yeah, the building's set to be demolished. They keep talking about different time frames, but I think now they're talking 18, 24 months possibly before that actually happened. But hopefully we'll get possession of that building soon and start turning it around. So we're in negotiations with the city, and I think there's some really good options on the table. So hopefully we can get it acquired and fixed up. There's a little bit of a blight on the 3rd Street right now, and I think we can make it look pretty probably in a month or so.
Oh, cool.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of spaces like that all over Dayton. That one, fortunately, I had the Wright Brothers Association with it, so it makes it a little easier to save probably than others. But we've got a lot of beautiful empty spaces around here that we could actually do something with.
It's a national, isn't it like a national monument or something, or?
Well, it's on the National Historic Register as a contributing property to the district, but it's not really protected specifically under the Wright Brothers, and it's got a fairly low form of protection. So hopefully at some point they'll recognize, or we'll work with the National Register, and they'll focus a little more on the Wright Brothers, and maybe we can really get it protected.
Yeah, because then we got like, it seems like the only answer to empty spaces in Dayton now is wrecking balls. And more in an empty space where the empty space, even emptier space than the empty space that was.
They have a field, that's nice. You can like go and...
Well, fields are nice, for sure, but like, I read something
Empty
like,
lots full of garbage and broken bottles.
I like it.
Yeah, and yeah, like a good place for like geekers to sleep. And where do geekers sleep?
Eventually.
But they're going to tear down Julian too, so...
Well, a judge put a stay of
execution on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's eventually they want to tear it down.
But isn't that just kind of like a delaying the inevitable? Seems like Dayton Public is like, we are tearing this sucker down. We do not care.
It's a really nice building. It's a shame. I was in it when Stivers was there for those couple months. More than a couple months, like a year or two.
And like the only place, like one of the only places in the U.S. that has like original Italian architecture inside.
Yeah.
But what do you do with it if you save it?
Roller rink.
Roller rink. At least on one floor.
We would have 10 of them in the city if you had your way, right? I mean, it is a nice building. It is historic. But, what do you do with it? If you can't find a good use for it, then progress should happen, I guess. I don't know. I mean, not everything can be saved, but the things that are important should be.
What's important?
And viable. Important and viable.
Well, I guess I wouldn't have a problem if we were replacing this stuff with stuff that wasn't like Pleasantville.
Right.
Or, a lot of the schools people have said look like prisons. And I'd have to agree with a few of them. Like, have a prisony look
Right.
to the architecture.
Sure.
Real just block brick. Like, ugh, that's brutal. You know, it used to be like we made these institutions to be like almost houses of worship to education. I mean, that's a lot of why they were grand structures, because they looked upon this is a special place.
Right.
This isn't just you know, a strip mall where you.
Well, there's two sides of the coin, though, because obviously with the Dayton public schools, their schools are in such this horrible shape that they have to do something about it. I don't know if the answer was to maybe save some of these old buildings or what they did, which is get rid of most of them and put up new fancy schools, state-of-the-art schools.
Well, my understanding is that the public school system survives off the property tax dollars. That's 50% of the money roughly goes to the schools. It would seem to me that the fastest way to put money in their pockets and improve the school system is to get people and businesses and industries and on these properties so they can start collecting that property insurance.
We have to fill more of the empty spaces.
Right. And the key thing is we need to identify these spaces. Neighborhoods specifically need to identify these spaces. Have a basic idea of what their needs are in that neighborhood. Do they need a grocery store? Do they need a place to eat? Do they need a community center? What exactly do they need to lift that neighborhood? And utilize that building for that purpose. If we can get the public to come out and people take an interest in these buildings in those neighborhoods, we can partner with other groups throughout the city and work with them to secure those things.
Yeah, this town generally does not have a great track record of keeping its history. It just really ticks me off that the Wright brothers, some of the Wright brothers buildings are in Michigan. It's like, really?
Well, my neighborhood,
Crazy.
12 identified properties associated with the Wright brothers. There's only 3 that still exist. So, we're talking about tearing down another one. That leaves us with 2. Why would anybody come to my neighborhood or Dayton to tour aviation-related things if most of them are missing? So that's really important to preserve history for sure. But more importantly, get these buildings used. Get people in some of these abandoned homes. This is just ridiculous. The entire neighborhood's vacant. I mean, surely we've got to be able to put a team together, a group of very interested people together that have some skills, can work together, and maybe they develop 5 or 10 houses in the neighborhood and they take it over. And we always wait for somebody to come in and rescue us, and some big corporation to put in the Kroger's or a Walmart or something like that. I still maintain that it starts with people in neighborhoods and certain citizens. I mean, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. I mean, you need a grocery store, form a co-op.
Right.
Form an ESOP. There's a lot of people in these neighborhoods that don't have a job. You can create something that provides yourself with a job as well. So,
Right.
To me, it starts in the house, with your family, and it spreads out to the neighborhoods. And if you get the neighborhoods moving forward, you can lift an entire city. So.
Well, I know you have a problem when they're tearing down some of the vacant properties. Like they got, I don't remember the details, but they got like land banking. They doing land banking with some of the houses, and this is a horrible problem. Nobody's going to want to live in a neighborhood where it's nothing but abandoned houses. It's not safe.
Well, nobody's going to want to live in a city that doesn't have a tax base to support even its most perfunctory things like schools and police and fire and everything else. And we were talking about this earlier before you got here. We need to just put up a poster that says, if you think you could qualify, come down to City Hall and apply. And if you could qualify, we'll give you a 5-year land grant on this house. If you can improve it this much, if you can get a new roof on it and get it past inspection, electric, plumbing, and all that within 5 years, which really should be plenty of time, then they'll give you another 2 years of tax-free. You don't have to pay any tax, property taxes for 2 years. And so you have a 7-year period of time where these houses wouldn't make any tax money. But then after that, who knows how many hundreds of houses you could have contributing to the tax base in this city. And the more people that come, the more businesses you need, and the more businesses you need, the more people will come, and it's a self-fulfilling cycle, but you have to find a way to get people into houses. I mean, homeownership is the crux of American life, and if the entire population of a city is completely disenfranchised and unable to own a home, what's the
city full of homes?
Right. You are a city full of homes, full of renters, and nobody. If you don't own a stake in this city, then why do you care? Why would you come? Why would you want to put your kids in our schools? You know, it's
Why would you want to clean up your yard if you're renting a place?
right.
Well, I mean, I
exactly.
rent and I care about this community.
Me too.
So-
No, some people don't, especially if you got a bad renter that maybe
Yeah.
they're not fixing the leaks. There's
Right.
other things wrong with the house.
I don't think the problem's renters. I think it's like you said, if there becomes the renter population is totally out of whack. Like
Right.
everybody's renting and there's no one buying, and there's no one taking up in these empty houses.
Right.
Something's seriously wrong.
Right.
Let's talk about something even more fun.
Well, I was going to say we should talk about Dayton's image, because you were talking about people don't want to
Yes.
come downtown. And we were talking to the mayor last week and with Major Faulkner about Dayton's bad image and how the media has a role in perpetuating this danger vibe about the city.
Right.
Yeah, bodies are falling from the sky.
Lots of
For those
suburban
of-
people don't want to go downtown because they think they're going to get shot, or there's just like drug addicts all over the streets or something. And
As a downtown resident, I'm shot once or twice a day, for sure, at least.
Well, I think a lot of that stems from the crime spree of the early to mid '90s,
Right.
because it was
Oh, yeah.
bad. It was bad, and then the Christmas killings. I mean, that sealed the deal for downtown when those.
Yeah, that was crazy. If you weren't from around Dayton around that time, it was like, I think the guy just got executed last year, didn't
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
he? Yeah, he went on, it was just a terror spree.
I know.
across the
I
city.
got robbed down there. I got stabbed in my thigh with a knife, for a old beat up Atlanta Braves
real?
hat and a Walkman. The tape player didn't even work at it. I tried to tell them they didn't hear.
How did it work?
I got beat up. I got robbed. But I'm a Dayton boy, and I refuse to give up on this city. And if people want to hold on to that view from 20 years ago, I think there's very little you're going to do to change their minds, but it's the people who weren't here for that don't remember that, whose minds you have to work on, because those are the people you're going to get to move into the city.
Yeah, the old people like, the Kettering crowd who's like, we moved out of Dayton as soon as I started busing. They're all like 80 and 75. That whole crew is, and they've got that kind of mentality, and you're like, whatever, Grandpa. But
Yeah, no, I mean, not all of them, though. Like,
not all of them, but I'm
there's
just
a
saying
lot
to
of
a
old
large
folks
extent,
that want to see it,
it's dying off.
They remember what it used to be, and they want to see it return to some sort of glory. And
if
it's
they
like,
want to do it their way that they
Yeah.
did before, and they have to, we can't do it the old way.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
relied on a world war to finance everything, and we unfortunately don't run profitable wars any longer. So we have to find one. We'll have to find another way. Either that or start invading more, richer countries.
just France.
Well,
I'm thinking Luxembourg or maybe
Speaking of-
Brunei.
There you go.
Speaking of images in Dayton, I think there's no worse image that happens in Dayton than a skanky prostitute dragging her feet along one of the major corridors of the city, or a lot of times in neighborhoods. The Dayton Police Department came out recently. I'm not sure exactly the contents of the study, but from what I read in the paper, it was like, basically they were saying like, this is a lost cause.
Yeah.
This, we keep arresting the same people over and over, and and I was talking to some policemen last week, and I asked them, should Dayton have a red light district?
The arcade.
There you go. Make it Bronco.
I just filled that empty space.
So should Dayton have a red light district, and if so, where should we put it? You say the arcade.
No, I was
Should
kidding.
we have a red light district?
I'm gonna go with no
Okay.
right now.
I have to agree with that.
I'm gonna say
I
I'm gonna
disagree.
go European and say yes.
I'm
We
with
should
that.
we should move it. We should restrict it to certain geographical areas where it can be contained. Seriously, because I had
thought it was called the
some
internet.
crack hose in front of my house over on Wayne Avenue one summer. They were so bad. They were just constantly on the phone. And I went and stuffed the phone with German Shepherd poop.
Oh,
This was like a hot day, man. Okay.
The one right there by Family Dollar.
Yeah, one by my Family Dollar.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, they're not going to eat. I'm just tired of, they're always on this phone. Every time I look out here, there's some like person who's like, like all their like joints are like kind of jangling. And, all the drama, they were bringing drama back and forth. And the poop didn't stop them.
get out of here. Poop stops those things.
Yeah.
Wipes it off on
I
her
thought poop
cheeks.
stopped
keeps
everything.
talking.
No.
Hold on, honey, there's shit on the phone.
Yeah.
All right.
And this was a hot day, and I know the
Yeah.
poop couldn't. I mean, it was like 94, so the poop couldn't have been like.
Oh
you know,
God. That's the worst thing I've heard today. It's a lot.
So I don't think you're going to teach those people a whole lot. You know, people who are willing to jump into the truck with a dirty old man and put a poop-filled phone up to their head, you're not going to teach them.
Well, the question is like, should prostitution be legal? And to me, it's like, okay, I don't know if I think it should be legal or not, but I think that when you regulate things, you control it more, you keep some of these problems, because
Decriminalized.
you decriminalized it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, the reason you have these women on drugs who are doing this who are not is because it's criminalized, and they're the only people who look at it as a career. You know, maybe you had some rules, regulations, you could protect them from being abused, and maybe,
That's
you know,
all I'm
force
saying.
them to-
There's more humanity involved with it, and taking it out of the neighborhoods. You know,
Right.
people get sick of it, and it brings a lot of other stuff along with it. You know, you've got Pimpy,
Right.
Miss, you know, and his crew coming around right behind her, and with whatever they're doing, which is all, a lot of times a lot of other stuff. So it brings other different kind of crime. So I say, regulate it, put it in a certain area, have doctors available for the women. So make sure there's all the health stuff, because there's nothing like
It
that.
never works in the black market. You drive drugs or prostitution or anything like that into the black market, you can't control it, and then it becomes insidious, and it starts showing up in your neighborhoods, it starts showing up in your workplaces. But if you know, just sticking to prostitution, right, you're right, it would take it out of your neighborhoods, it would take it out of people's faces, and put it somewhere that you wouldn't see it unless you wanted to go there for it. And you could make sure that these women were getting health checkups. You could make sure that they weren't spreading diseases. You could make sure that
They're offered like programs to get out of it.
right. You know, you know, keeping it in a black market doesn't. You're just going to spend more and more money on police hours and jailing and everything else, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And it's just going to stay on the streets, and it's going to stay in your neighborhoods, and it's going to, you know, stay in all these abandoned houses and everything, you know, because that's where everybody's conducting their business, is in our empty spaces. So the empty spaces, I think, is the city's biggest problem. And I commend you on doing what you're doing with the right building. I watched that on the news, and I didn't know that was you. That's pretty cool. You know, I hope they work with you so you can get that done. That'd be really neat.
Well, the interesting part of that is, had this not been associated with the Wright brothers, the chances of getting a project like this off the ground would have been absolutely zero.
Certainly.
And you know, the true nature of what we're trying to do is not just save that building, but to save other buildings, develop other buildings in transitional or at-risk neighborhoods, so we can lift those neighborhoods. So it's a good way for us to come in the door. You know, obviously there's a lot of notoriety, and you know, it'll be a good springboard to move on to other projects. But
Sure.
Right, that neighbor, that has great buildings over there.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, we were in Cincinnati. I can't remember. What's the name of that neighborhood in Cincinnati that reminds me of that?
Over the Rhine?
Oh, right. What's the name of that long street?
Vine.
Vine Street. They have the same kind of buildings there. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, it's going to be like sweet if they could somehow copy that or make it
Well, how
better.
can we get people to?
To
Yeah,
care.
trick 'em.
Well, how do you get people to like want to go want to be downtown instead of the Green? Obviously, there's a lot more shopping at the Green.
Well, I think the point is you got to get people to care about the value of the old buildings and architecture and wanting to keep some kind of history.
Right,
That's
instead
really the
of
bottom
build
line.
new buildings that look like the old buildings.
And
that
they look
tore
like
down.
movie sets. They look like fake. They're built with cheap materials.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, you can't go Green versus downtown Dayton. That ship is sailed. It's you got to think of yourself as unique. People like things that are unique. What do we have that nobody else has?
Bob
And-
Pollard and Sugarfoot.
Well, you know, I'm all for some sort of funk museum or something. That's like,
Yeah, that'd be
Well, you know how they had
That's
the
just-
was it Johnson, the heir to the Johnson fortune, doing these statues? Like, why won't some of the statues like Bob Pollard or some of the funk bands, you know, the Ohio Players? I can see the Ohio Players you know, doing their funky thing. Like on, you know, that'd be better than just like man in suit.
Right.
I mean, it was nice and everything, but you know, Bob Pollard or Mitch Mitchell or Sugarfoot or someone else infamous, Tommy the dancing hippie. You know, he's passed last year.
Right.
You know,
Dancing Tom.
Muffin
Yeah,
Man
it's going to
Phil.
dancing time.
Yeah.
Dayton.
How hard would it be for the city to actually embrace its own inner funk?
It's not going to be the city, though. It has to be the people. Like you're saying,
Yeah, it's
correct.
We have a tendency to keep saying city, but I really think it
It's the
starts
people
with the,
too.
Well, you know, we are the city,
the
though.
family in that neighborhood, and then it just picks up from there.
Their job is to enact what we tell them to.
Well, that's true. And it goes back
You know,
again to our apathy, though.
That's well. Don't get me started.
Right, but that's the bottom line.
Do
is that
nothing,
nobody's putting
expect
pressure
same.
on
That's
them.
the way I
Right.
feel about things. You
Right.
you do nothing, expect exactly
Exactly.
that,
They're not-
or worse.
They're not gonna hold
Expect
people
subtraction from your life by doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, I think that apathy thing, that is definitely one thing, but I also think people are wanting direction. That was one of the things, like when Obama got elected. I just wanted somebody to come in there that would say, you know, do a John F. Kennedy, we're gonna do this great thing, you know, or send a man to the moon in this length of time. I mean, we need somebody to give us the, you know, to rally us.
But you know, there's no savior.
Yeah, we have no
You know,
inspiration.
not only that anymore.
Yeah.
we are.
Any movement that's ever been successful has not been one person.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So people just really need to get over that whole waiting for this one.
You gotta have at least a group, somebody coming out and saying, okay, well, here is a number of options for you. We can go down these various paths. What do you guys think? And you know, I think we kind of rely on the city officials and administration to make that decision for us. And the truth of the matter is, they're there to institute our wishes.
Right.
So, and unless you know what those wishes are, it's kind of hard to blame them for any mistakes that they might make. If we can get the interest in the community, maybe start some groups. I mean, each one of these, the priority board system, you know, that's a pretty amazing system, you know, from a historical standpoint. But you know, we have that in place. I think we can modernize that and make that a little bit more, you know, run a little smoother. But you know, why don't we take advantage of that system? You know, there's 7 different priority boards in the city. You know, people, you know, get involved with those priority boards and let them know what your community or you know your section of this town needs, and we'll move it up the chain.
But you got to move up the chain. You got to make sure that the people on the top are doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's
And
all
if you
about putting their feet to the fire if they're not.
Yeah, you're right. If we don't give them our ideas, they're going to take their own and run with them. And
Right.
some of them haven't been very good at all. Some of them have been great ideas. You know, say what you will about Mike Turner, but Schuster Center, he helped rehab Victoria Theater, the ballpark, Riverscape. You know, I think he was a good proponent for downtown Dayton. I'm not going to speak for the rest of the city, but for downtown, he was very proactive. And you know, we have a lot of those same people that are still in the government, so I don't see that should be a problem. We just have to get the people of Dayton
Involved and interested.
I tell you, living down in Miamisburg, they have embraced that totally. The whole bike trail thing, they've used it to their advantage with wonderful success. They have business after business popping up down there because it's right there. They've made themselves accessible to it, and they've opened their doors to it and embraced it as part of their community. And Dayton built that levee 100 years ago and has forgotten about that river ever since. Man, we pretend like it doesn't even exist. And it could
I don't. I live right next to it. My house was
Yeah,
underwater in 1913, so
Right.
I think about that river every day.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, you know, after that flood, we built the levee, and the Great Miami ceased to be part of Dayton. It was a sewage drain, basically. We never did anything with it, and now we could very much embrace it. I have to give my dad credit. He's been talking about that river since I was a little kid, and he hates the dams. He hates the spillways. He's
Dam's
been
coming down.
He's been telling them, dredge it and throw some boats on there.
Yeah.
He's been saying that since the 80s, man.
Development, yeah.
Put some businesses
Yeah,
down
it's
there.
like it's dirty. You can't ride a
We
bike.
want to
You can't
canoe
rollerblade
to
on it.
downtown. We want to
No.
canoe downtown.
Yeah, we'd love to be able to drop off over here and canoe all the way to downtown. That'd be awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
so much potential.
Well, that's what they're talking about
Start
doing, is
like
building like a
Canoe.
fake rapids system right there, right by the riverscape. They want to build like a fake rapids thing. And that's great, and that's fine. I want them to do that because that's the beginning of embracing the river as part of our culture. We
Yeah.
can be a river city, but we need to bring some businesses down there for those people, you know, like, and I think Miamisburg has got it on point there because they have places for people to go, grab something to eat, grab a beer, you know, sit in the shade.
You also said you hated living in Miamisburg too.
Well,
so explain
I don't like being sequestered from Dayton. This is my city. This is my home. I love Dayton. I've been here my entire life, and you know.
Yeah, because I lived in Miamisburg, and I would choose Dayton any day of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Any day of the week.
Over Miamisburg. And that's not like a slam against the entire population of Miamisburg or anything against that. So I do some great people down there. But you just can't get what you can get. I mean, Dayton is certainly not, it's not in its glory days, but still.
It's interesting.
It's still more interesting than any of the Dayton,
Right.
like hobbled with a goiter, is still more interesting than any of the suburbs.
I'm gonna say this, like, it's always been Dayton against the suburbs. See, I'm more of a proponent than Dayton. The suburbs are Dayton. We're one community, and like infighting between these communities is one of the reasons this area is in the shape it's in.
division.
You know, it's like, look, dudes, we're all in this together.
That's right.
Right.
You know,
If Dayton
agree,
dies,
eventually.
they
Yeah,
die. We are the beating
exactly.
heart of the area.
But aren't the suburbs totally willing to let Dayton die?
Well, then they would die outright.
Isn't that-
Certainly, you know, soon after they
Right.
would suffer next. I don't go to the Green because I feel that some of that development should have come downtown. You know, but I have to say that Dayton was apathetic and let that slip through their fingers. You know, Dayton didn't proactively go out there and market themselves to Miller Valentine and the other developers that own that property and say, wait. Before you do this, at least do a study down here to see if you guys can do it down in Dayton, downtown, before you do it here for less money and draw more people. You know, you're not going to get people to drive all the way from Piqua to the Green, but you might be able to get people to drive from Piqua to downtown Dayton. You might be able to draw people in from all the way across the Miami Valley into downtown Dayton. And I just think that Dayton should have reached out for those developers and not let that happen as easily as they did. You know?
But they did, so what's going on going forward?
Did you really want, to be honest with you, I mean, I guess everybody have an opinion. Do you want JCPenney's and
Yes.
mega corporations?
Sure.
Well, there
or,
was an
They bring
overrear
other
in
businesses
downtown.
with them.
or do you want
People went there.
people to start up their businesses here
I
locally?
want both.
Both, yeah.
I want both. I think if you put a Fridays downtown, people will come down to eat at Fridays. You put another mom and pop across the street,
Yeah.
people will come to that mom and pop
Right.
just
Well,
the
that's the
same.
thing. You need a draw.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think you have to make it enticing for the independent business person, and you have to make it enticing for the corporate business. You have to make it, you can't have it one way or the other. We're not Yellow Springs, we're Dayton. We have to
Ecosystem.
have a
Right.
symbiotic
Yeah.
relationship between the independent business person and the corporate business.
And believe me, I'm all for small businesses. You know, small businesses are the heartbeat of the nation. But people want to eat at Fridays. That's what they want to eat. It's like, do you want people who like Applebee's to shop in your city and spend money in your city? Yes. So here's your Applebee's.
Put it
Here's
in.
your whatever.
Here's your
I don't care
Applebee's.
what you like. Just
That's
come
right.
downtown
What? It
and
was
spend
okay
money.
for Elder Bierman's to be downtown, but not JCPenney.
Right. Well, the argument of that is Elder Bierman's used to be a local business.
Right.
But
Well, there are Ohio-based restaurant chains that we could, you know, Max and Irma's is from Columbus. We could, you know, try and
That's
sway
right.
them into building one down
But
there.
it all comes down to convincing these people that it's viable. It's a viable
And that they're not going to
business
get killed and robbed when they go
Right.
downtown.
That's a
Yeah.
huge thing is the image. Dayton
Yeah.
has got to do something to change
Well,
its
it's going to
image.
be,
It's changing now.
it's changing slowly.
Slowly.
I agree
Sure.
with you, but
Yeah.
you know, you're talking about like a 30 to 40 year sledgehammer, and most of what the television news, which is mostly what people see, is completely
Negative.
it's negative and it's out of context.
Media has definitely caused a large part
Sure.
of it.
The local television news depends on crime.
Right.
But they need to have stories every
that's
day. They
absolutely wrong, though.
but they do.
But that's wrong.
It is
they don't,
wrong.
They don't need the crime. What they need
That's
is,
true.
is positive story. There's enough people in this
That's
town
true.
doing neat things that we can concentrate more on that. Tell us
But
about
they're trying-
tell us
they're
about the
easy.
crime. That's fine.
It's easy.
But some of the stuff
They're
that's,
trying that with like that Living Dayton thing.
Oh, God.
WNTN.
I'm
You seen
sorry.
that?
That is an
But I'm
awful.
sorry, but it's totally cheesy.
It is hokey.
They don't
hokey.
they don't know how to be real because they're in the whole
The
system
TV bubble system.
of news and the organized news and corporate news, and that's the way
When you
that
live inside that world, you don't see anything except that world, and therefore,
I haven't checked. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, I think the people that are
We like ripping
obviously running these programs don't have their finger on the pulse of
Right.
anything.
yeah, right.
You know,
right.
I wonder how long it'll be before a good story is done about the garden there on Webster, or the fact that they're building a skateboard park inside the old shampoo building there, or all the neat art that goes on in the Front Street building, or, you know, there's just a whole lot of neat little things going on in this city that don't get any play.
Why do they think that we want to see this ridiculous stuff on TV? You know,
because they've checked out marketing studies have shown
And
that people like to watch.
Why do people slow down and
bodies.
look at car accidents? Why we
Yeah.
we
the
love
news
watching
thrives
people suffer.
on salaciousness, on
Yeah.
sex, fear,
Yeah.
and sensationalism.
It
Yeah,
goes
but
back
it
to what
doesn't
we
have
were
to be
talking
that
about
way.
earlier. It's like if you don't like it, call them and tell them so. They're gonna keep assuming that everybody likes it.
Or just turn it
Or
off.
just don't watch it. That's what we did. We just turned it
Yeah.
off.
To me, it's like the television culture is just kind of.
That's a huge problem in our
Yeah.
country, though, that people think TV is real life.
Yeah.
well,
And,
these news people better start getting a little more responsible too.
That's true.
There was a situation we had a while back where a gentleman kicked the glass out of a police car and jumped off a bridge.
Right.
And I'm here.
Cali English.
And I'm
Yeah.
here to tell you, within a very short time, maybe an hour or so, there was an article that said the African American community is in an uproar over this situation. And I'm like,
Right.
how could that even possibly be an hour into this story?
Right.
And they generated the
They
story.
had-
that-
yeah, where anyone got that group was like wanting to riot or.
Right. It's because when black people do anything, it's scary.
Right, that's
And
true.
Yeah.
That's
and,
true.
and also, if black people do anything, it's a representation of
Of all black people. Right.
So that's just,
That's
Right.
it.
you know, it's like there's varying opinions in the black community. Surprise!
Yeah, we're all different. Imagine.
Imagine that. You know?
Well, I think that
being part of the African American community, you all of a sudden read this story that took place an hour ago,
Well,
and it
plus
says
the
the whole
source-
community's in an uproar, and it has a tendency, well, if everybody else is in an uproar, I should be in an uproar. Next thing you know, you've got
No,
Yeah.
has a tendency for some people to assume that. 'Cause we've had
Right.
some other people like, well, I'm not in the uproar. They're doing
Right.
it again.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think as black people, we're used to this.
That's
sort
what I was
of-
going to say. Most
Yeah.
black people understand the coded language and
Yeah.
the initiation of this imagined
Right.
uproar created by media or
Right.
Well, the other half of that story is the Dayton Police Department. You know, aside from Mr. English, there is the Dayton Police Department, and I know in the African American community in Dayton, the relationship between them and the police department is very strained.
Well, that's true here, and
Yeah.
that's true in any part of the United States. We have a severe race issue, and a lot of whites, not all, but a lot of whites are unwilling to come to the table and have a conversation about what's going on here. And that's really a big problem in our culture.
It's a
Well,
historical
we've got-
problem.
Well, here's the great news, I think, with regard to the city, is as we go through this, these problems with renewable energy and fossil fuels and the whole 9 yards, one thing we're learning real quick is the way we operated back at the turn of the century, where we had mixed-use communities, people lived, worked, shopped right there in their great neighborhoods. We are heading that way again.
Right.
We don't have any choice, because you're not going to have the luxury of jumping in a car and driving 45 minutes to work, because you're not going to be able to afford the fuel. The fuel may not exist. So I think cities are going to come back. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, if you position yourself today, to make it do it in such a way that it's sustainable and efficient. This is a perfect opportunity. Let's make the investment now. We'll be reaping the rewards for the next 200 years.
I think we are. I think we have things like Tech Town, UDRI, things out at Wright Pat, UD and Wright State. you know, we need to jump on the technology and the green technology bandwagon. We've already got the manufacturing base. We've already got the workforce. We've already got the infrastructure, the buildings, the factories. It's all sitting here waiting for people to utilize it. And you're right, they're all clustered in these mixed-use neighborhoods. You can drive almost into any neighborhood in Dayton, and that's what it is. It's just full of these buildings and people waiting for something to happen.
That's the end of our yakking. We hope you've enjoyed yourselves. Mike, I'm Dave. Jackson, Amelia. Bye.
You heard my voice in there a little bit.
And that is Real Dayton, Real Talk, version 0.3.